been relatively good over the past decade, say. That has tanked?
No.
Recently that I can think of?
Somebody said
in the NFL. It's
No,
happened
but
in baseball.
to Jay's point, we're not talking. None of them made the worst trade in NFL history. None of them took a quarterback that is in the running for an MVP
it's the worst
this
trade
year.
in NFL history. I'd say second, but go ahead.
No, I think it's the worst.
No, it's the worst.
All right,
I think it's the worst.
What, are you saying Herschel Walker was worse?
The Herschel Walker was that one directly led to the Cowboys winning multiple Super Bowls.
But that doesn't matter from Minnesota's perspective.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because
fair enough.
Now you could say for Dallas it was the best trade. Okay, it didn't work. It wasn't the worst for Minnesota.
Fair enough.
And this might not be the best trade for the Texans.
Right.
But I have and I've expanded.
It started with one sentence that shook the entire NFL. Mike Tomlin, the league's most disciplined, composed, no-nonsense coach, did something he's never done in nearly 2 decades. He broke the code. Live on air, he called out Browns GM Andrew Berry by name. Not a hint, not a cryptic comment, a direct shot. And within seconds, you could feel the tension ripple across every sports desk in America. Because in the NFL, this isn't just drama. This is war. See, coaches don't do this. They don't break ranks. They don't expose front office chaos. And they definitely don't torch another franchise publicly. Unless something far bigger is brewing behind closed doors. Tomlin's outburst wasn't about Joe Flacco. It wasn't about one trade. It was about everything that's wrong in Cleveland. A broken culture, the worst trade in NFL history, and whispers of a generational quarterback caught in the crossfire. Shedeur Sanders.
Tony Dungy disciple. Mike Tomlin, if he doesn't have something good to say, says nothing. Not only did he take a shot, he took a shot at his rival and mentioned him by name.
Because he's trying to win the division. The Browns are helping the Bengals catch him.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I don't know about that.
What else could it be?
Yeah.
Well, the Bengals aren't going to catch him.
But from his vantage point, he's like,
I'll tell
dude,
you
it's a
what I
division
think it might
rival.
be.
Why are you helping one of our division rivals?
I'm going to tell you, I'll give you a theory, and you guys can all tell me I'm crazy after I give you the theory. That's kind of how the show goes. My theory is Andrew Berry didn't make that decision. Andrew Berry executed that decision, that was made by somebody else, and Mike Tomlin, the target of Mike Tomlin right there wasn't Andrew Berry because he knew Andrew Berry didn't make the move. He knew whoever made that move would hear that comment, and Andrew Berry would be able to look back at him and say,
because while the Browns implode, trading away quarterbacks like they're spare parts, one of the hottest college prospects in America is watching. And what he's seeing might change his entire career path. What if Tomlin's comment wasn't a slip, but a warning? What if the Steelers' legendary coach knows something the rest of the league doesn't? Something that could reshape the AFC North and rewrite how every team handles the next draft. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on what really happened between Mike Tomlin and the Browns. How Shedeur Sanders' name suddenly became part of the chaos, and why one coach's slip of the tongue might just expose the most dysfunctional front office in football. Because this time, the code wasn't just broken, it was shattered. No one expected it. Not the analysts, not the fans, and definitely not the Browns. Mike Tomlin, the calmest man on any sideline. The coach who's built a career on discipline and respect just went off script.
Opening day starting quarterback and their starting cornerback in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
Teams that are trying to win do not do that. They don't care about winning. I'm sorry I keep saying it.
Are you? We need to qualify something. Are you saying it's okay that they're doing it because they're not trying to win?
I'm not trying to justify
But you know what? It does come across as if you're carrying their water.
No, but
it really does.
I'm not necessarily.
And I know you're not that kind of guy.
Because
you should be killing them for that.
But I also understand their cap sheet is destroyed, and it's hard to win.
All on their own.
It's self-inflicted. But now that the mess is made, like, you can yell at them for setting the fire. But, like, the fire's out, and now you got to sweep up the rubble. So
I don't think the fire's out.
On one hand, well, no, he's still here, and he should have been cutting out. But so on one hand, I totally get, like, they're...
When asked about the Browns trading Joe Flacco mid-season to a division rival, Tomlin didn't dodge. He didn't sugarcoat. He didn't say the usual, that's their business. Instead, he leaned forward, looked straight at the reporter, and said, Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me, because it doesn't make sense to me. The room went silent. You could feel every jaw drop on live television. Because in the NFL, that kind of direct hit doesn't happen. Coaches speak in riddles. They protect each other. But Tomlin, he just broke the unwritten rule. Within minutes, social media exploded. Analysts couldn't believe it. One commentator said, "This is Browns culture versus Steelers culture. That's why Pittsburgh wins and Cleveland doesn't." Another reminded everyone that in the NFL, calling out a GM by name is career suicide. It's crossing a line that's been respected for decades. The professional code.
Coaches and guys, this is not normal. Coaches in the league and general managers in the league.
Don't do that.
This is not.
Especially Tomlin.
Hey, when they told me, I said I wanted to be a GA when I put inside, they said the first thing you got to know is coaches go by a code of conduct. You never call a coach out. You don't even fire coaches during the middle of the season because sometimes you don't know when you need to be hired by somebody else. They give them, this is what we call a professional courtesy. You don't name nobody's name in the front office because Andrew Berry might be the person that need to hire Mike Tomlin one day. And guess what? He like, I feel you so incompetent, I'm taking that chip off the table. I don't want to go with you. I'm not eating birthday cake with you ever.
It's a code of conduct.
It's a code.
But here's what, to build on what you're saying.
So why would a coach as respected as Tomlin risk his image, his relationships, and his reputation just to take a shot at a front office rival? Because this wasn't about Joe Flacco. It was about something much bigger. A statement on leadership, accountability, and a franchise that's completely lost control. Tomlin's explosion didn't just embarrass the Browns, it exposed them. It forced everyone watching to ask the same question he did. What is going on in Cleveland? And the more you look at it, the crazier it gets. From disastrous trades to a culture that seems allergic to winning. But this was only the first shot. The real story starts when you find out why Tomlin went nuclear and who he was really talking to. Because if the rumors are true, his words weren't just aimed at the Browns GM. They were aimed at the people running the entire franchise from the shadows. In the NFL, there's an unspoken code, a line you just don't cross.
You know, to be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
Let me help
you
you
know,
out.
to be
Let me solve it for you. It's the Browns culture versus the Steelers culture.
Yeah.
They aren't trying to win.
The Steelers always try to
This season was never about
Right, but Jason,
winning.
he can't accept that because
That's what I'm saying. That's the difference in the Steelers culture and the Browns culture.
yeah, that's why the Steelers are winners and the Browns are losers.
Hey, listen, I don't care if they wasn't trying to win. Sometimes you ain't trying to do something you think you got a game plan, but that game plan backfired.
Coaches and executives live by it because this league is smaller than it looks, and reputations last longer than careers. You don't air another man's mistakes. You don't call out a GM on live television. And you never burn a bridge you might one day need to cross again. Every coach knows it. Every GM respects it. It's called professional courtesy. See, when Tomlin was rising through the ranks under Tony Dungy, one of the classiest, most composed coaches in football history, that code wasn't just mentioned, it was drilled into him. Dungy's rule was simple. If you don't have something good to say nothing at all. For nearly 20 years, Tomlin lived by it. He's been fiery, sure, but never disrespectful. Until now. So when he dropped Andrew Berry's name on national TV, that wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was a deliberate act of war. A public declaration that the Browns have gone too far. And the people inside the league knew exactly what it meant. One analyst said it perfectly. You don't name people by name in this league. You don't do it because the guy you call out today might be the one interviewing you tomorrow. Tomlin knew that, and he did it anyway. That's why his comments sent shockwaves across every front office in the country. Because this wasn't a rookie coach losing his cool. It was one of the league's most respected leaders breaking ranks and saying what everyone else was too afraid to admit. Cleveland's culture is broken. The Browns didn't just make a bad trade. They violated the unwritten laws of competition, helping a division rival mid-season in the middle of a playoff race. To Tomlin, that's not just bad business. It's betrayal. And that's why he went nuclear. He saw a rival franchise implode from the inside and decided to hold up a mirror, not for drama, but for accountability. Because if he didn't say it, nobody would. But the real twist is this, according to insiders. Tomlin's message wasn't even meant for Andrew Berry. It was meant for someone higher up, the people truly pulling strings in Cleveland's front office. And that's where things start to get messy. To understand why Mike Tomlin went scorched earth on live television, you have to look at the chaos brewing inside Cleveland. Because this isn't just another case of a bad front office move. This is a full-blown organizational meltdown, years in the making. It all goes back to one decision, the Deshaun Watson trade, when the Browns sent 3 first-round picks, 2 third-rounders, and a 4th-round pick to Houston, along with a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. They didn't just mortgage their future, they set fire to it. On paper, it was supposed to be their Super Bowl move, their final piece. In reality, it's turned into what analysts are now calling the worst trade in NFL history. Why? Because everything that could go wrong did. Watson hasn't been the same player since leaving Houston. Injuries, inconsistency, and controversy have made him nearly untradeable. His cap hit alone is suffocating the franchise, leaving them no flexibility to build a roster, no depth, no direction. The Browns are trapped in their own deal. And to make it worse, the quarterback they tossed aside to make it all happen, Baker Mayfield, is now thriving in Tampa Bay. The guy they said wasn't good enough to win with is suddenly a leading MVP candidate. He's healthy, confident, and winning games while the Browns are burning draft picks and cap space like confetti. It's the kind of irony you couldn't script. The Browns gave up their future to replace the quarterback who's now outperforming the one they paid $250 million for. That's why Tomlin's comments hit so hard. Because when he said they're not trying to win, he wasn't exaggerating. He was pointing at a front office that keeps digging deeper instead of climbing out. And now that same front office just traded Joe Flacco, their opening day starter, to a division rival, the Bengals, in the middle of a playoff race. Think about that. You're in the most competitive division in football. And instead of building for the postseason, you're handing another AFC North team a veteran quarterback. To Mike Tomlin, that wasn't incompetence. That was insanity. It violated every principle of competition he believes in. Andrew Berry didn't make that call. That's the theory lighting up NFL circles right now, that the Browns' general manager isn't actually running the show. He's just carrying out orders from above. One analyst on live TV even said it straight. Andrew Berry executed that decision. He didn't make it. And suddenly, Mike Tomlin's public blast starts to make perfect sense. He wasn't taking a random shot. He was sending a coded message, not to Berry, but to the people who really pull the strings in Cleveland, the ones hiding behind the curtain, making football decisions that no football man would ever make. Think about it. Trading your starting quarterback to a division rival mid-season. Destroying your salary cap on a guaranteed deal that paralyzed the team. Replacing promising young quarterbacks year after year with overpaid, short-term solutions. No competent GM would willingly do that. It's the classic symptom of ownership interference, where the football people are handcuffed and every major move comes from the top. And the Browns have a long history of this exact dysfunction. Coaches, coordinators, and front office execs have come and gone. But the chaos never changes. Because it's not about who's wearing the title. It's about who's really calling the shots. And here's the chilling part. The pattern fits perfectly. When something goes wrong, Barry's the one who has to explain it to the media. But when something controversial happens, like the Watson deal or the Flacco trade, the fingerprints seem to lead somewhere higher. That's why Tomlin broke the code. He's been in this business long enough to recognize when a front office is being sabotaged from within. His public outburst was his way of saying, "This isn't football anymore. This is dysfunction." But there's another layer to this that makes it even more explosive. Because while the team is being accused of not even trying to win, there's a name quietly circling the chaos. A name that could change everything. A quarterback prospect who's not just talented, but polarizing. Someone who represents everything Cleveland claims to be looking for, yet everything they've consistently failed to build around. That name is Shedeur Sanders, and believe it or not, what's happening behind the scenes in Cleveland might decide his NFL future. While the Browns were busy imploding on live television and handing division rivals free upgrades, another story was quietly brewing, one that could define the next decade and that's exactly what's got the NFL buzzing. Shedeur isn't just another flashy name with a famous dad. He's a generational quarterback talent, accurate, fearless, unshakable. Scouts love his footwork, his pre-snap reads, and his ability to handle the spotlight. When chaos swirls around him, he doesn't flinch. He absorbs pressure and turns it into precision. Now look back at Cleveland, a team drowning in dysfunction with a history of destroying promising quarterbacks, a front office accused of not even trying to win, a fan base desperate for hope, and a franchise still recovering from the worst trade in NFL history. Enter Shedeur Sanders, a leader who thrives where others collapse. It's no wonder his name has suddenly started floating around in conversations about Cleveland's future. The Browns are almost guaranteed to have a high draft pick in 2025. The timing lines up perfectly. A broken team staring at a generational quarterback. An opportunity to finally fix everything. But here's the catch. Shedeur isn't just any rookie. He's smart, he's selective, and he's not walking into a disaster unprepared. People close to him say he's already paying attention to how the NFL treats him, how coaches talk about him, how front offices plan for him. And that's what makes Mike Tomlin's comments so important. Because when Tomlin, a respected Super Bowl winning coach, mentions Shedeur Sanders' name in the same breath as the Browns' chaos, that's not just gossip. That's a message. Tomlin's warning shot wasn't random. It was timed, strategic, because he knows that if the Browns keep spiraling, if their culture doesn't change, they could scare off the very player who could save them. And make no mistake, if Cleveland wants Shedeur Sanders, they're gonna have to earn him. This isn't a kid who's desperate to get drafted anywhere. This is a quarterback who's already turned one dead program, Colorado, into must-watch football. He doesn't need Cleveland. Cleveland needs him. But as history shows, the Browns have an unmatched talent for turning opportunity into disaster. And if they mishandle this next step, they won't just lose a draft pick. They'll lose the one player who could have rewritten their entire future. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just the next big thing. He might be the last shot the Browns have left to fix what's broken. Let's be honest, if you were Shedeur Sanders, would you want to play for the Cleveland Browns? A team buried under the worst contract in NFL history. A front office publicly humiliated by one of the most respected coaches in the league. A franchise that seems to burn down everything it touches, from Baker Mayfield to Johnny Manziel to Deshaun Watson. Most young quarterbacks would see that and run the other way. And honestly, who could blame them? History proves it. Great players avoid toxic organizations. Back in 1983, John Elway refused to play for the Baltimore Colts, forcing a trade to Denver. In 2004, Eli Manning pulled the same move, saying no to the Chargers before landing with the Giants and winning 2 Super Bowls. So the real question is, would Shedeur Sanders pull an Elway if Cleveland calls his name on draft night? Here's the thing about Shedeur. He's not built like the rest. Pressure doesn't scare him. Expectations don't shake him. In fact, he seems to feed on doubt. He grew up in the spotlight, with cameras in his face, critics on his back. And his father, one of the most iconic players in football history, reminding him daily that greatness demands mental steel. When he arrived at Colorado, that program was dead. 1 win, no identity, no future. Within months, Shedeur turned it into the most talked about team in America. Sold out stadiums, national TV every week. A quarterback who refused to fold, even when his offensive line couldn't protect him. That's not hype. That's leadership. But here's where things get complicated. Even if Shedeur wanted to take on the challenge, would the Browns even deserve him? Because this franchise has a pattern. They ruin quarterbacks before they ever have a chance to succeed. They don't build around them. They break them. If Cleveland drafts Shedeur without changing its culture, without fixing the dysfunction at the top, it'll be history repeating itself. Another wasted generational talent trapped in a losing cycle. And people in Shedeur's camp know it. They've watched how the Browns operate. They've seen how fast they give up on players, how ownership meddles in football decisions, and how quickly public hope turns into public embarrassment. So maybe, just maybe, Shedeur won't have to say no. Maybe the Browns will once again prove they can't get out of their own way. And the decision will make itself. Because no matter how talented he is, no quarterback, not even Shedeur Sanders, can save a franchise that doesn't want to be saved. Unless Cleveland changes everything, they won't just lose their next quarterback, they'll lose their last chance at redemption. Right now, the Cleveland Browns stand at a crossroads, a point every doomed franchise eventually reaches. The place where denial runs out and reality walks in. They can either learn from every mistake that brought them here, or double down and destroy their future once again. Because if there's one thing that defines Cleveland football, it's this. They don't lose quietly. They self-destruct spectacularly. Let's break it down. The Browns' so-called Super Bowl window slammed shut the moment they signed Deshaun Watson. A fully guaranteed $230 million deal. Unprecedented, reckless, and now crippling. Their salary cap is suffocating. Their draft capital evaporated. Their locker room fractured. And the man they gambled their franchise on can't stay healthy or consistent long enough to justify a single penny of that contract. Now, here comes the next NFL draft, and with it, a golden opportunity. A chance to hit reset, to stop pretending, stop patching holes, and finally rebuild the right way. Every successful franchise in the modern NFL has done it the same way. Patience, development, and culture. The Chiefs didn't buy Patrick Mahomes. They built around him. The Ravens didn't chase veterans. They trusted Lamar Jackson and gave him the tools to grow. The Texans, just 2 years removed from rock bottom, are now playoff contenders because they found C.J. Stroud and let him lead. But the Browns, they panic every single time. They don't develop quarterbacks. They dispose of them. They don't fix mistakes. They bury them under new ones. And now they're staring down another generational talent in Shedeur Sanders, another potential savior. The smart move? Draft him, protect him, and finally commit to a long-term vision. Build stability. Give fans something to believe in. But let's be real, history says otherwise. The Browns don't learn lessons, they repeat them. And that's why Mike Tomlin's outburst felt so personal. It wasn't just a critique, It was a challenge, a public dare to the Browns front office to prove him wrong. Because Tomlin knows exactly what's coming. If Cleveland botches this again, if they pass on Shedeur or draft him and waste him, this franchise will be buried under its own reputation for another decade. This is it, the turning point, the make or break moment that will decide whether the Browns finally join the ranks of the competent or sink back into being the NFL's running joke. Every fan in Cleveland knows it. Every rival coach knows it. Even Shedeur Sanders probably knows it. They've got one chance to rewrite the story. One chance to turn Mike Tomlin's warning into motivation instead of prophecy. Because if they fail this time, the Browns won't just lose games, they'll lose faith. Theirs, their fans, and the entire league's belief that this team will ever get it right. And faith, once it's gone, doesn't come back easily. When Mike Tomlin broke the code, it wasn't about ego. It wasn't about headlines. It was about sending a message, a warning shot fired across the AFC North, and maybe across the entire NFL. Because Tomlin's words didn't just expose the Browns. They revealed a deeper truth about what it means to run a winning organization. For years, Cleveland has been the league's cautionary tale. Talented players, flashy signings, and endless talk of next season. But nothing ever changes. Coaches come and go. GMs take the blame. Ownership points fingers. And the fans? They're left holding the hope, season after season. Watching it crumble before Thanksgiving. Tomlin saw all of that, and he said what everyone else was too scared to say. He didn't have to. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's never had a losing season. He could have stayed silent, kept it professional, and gone about his business. But instead, he risked his image to tell the truth. Cleveland isn't just losing games. It's losing its soul. That's why his words hit so hard. Because they came from a man who represents everything the Browns claim to want. Leadership, accountability, consistency, culture. The Steelers don't always have the most talent, but they have something far more powerful: identity. And that's what Cleveland has never understood. In Pittsburgh, success starts at the top. In Cleveland, failure starts there too. And here's where this gets heavy. Because the next few months might decide whether that ever changes. The Browns are staring down the 2025 draft. Staring down their next potential savior in Shedeur Sanders. A quarterback who embodies everything they've lacked. Confidence, composure, and character. But if they don't change, if they stay arrogant, disorganized, and impulsive, then drafting Shedeur won't save them. It'll destroy him. The NFL doesn't reward chaos, it buries it. And that's why Tomlin spoke up, not just to humiliate Andrew Berry, not just to jab a rival, but to expose a system that keeps failing the game itself. He was telling the Browns, "Yo, poisoning the well. Fix it before you ruin the next generation." Because if they draft Shedeur Sanders and fail to protect him, fail to build around him, then history will repeat itself. Another quarterback wasted. Another rebuild that goes nowhere. Another fan base robbed of hope. But if they finally listen, if they finally take responsibility, this could be their redemption story. They can use Tomlin's words as fuel. They can look at Shedeur Sanders not as another quick fix, but as a foundation. A reason to rebuild the right. A symbol of how far accountability can take a franchise. Cleveland's house has burned down. The ashes are still warm. But maybe, just maybe, the fire wasn't meant to destroy. Maybe it was meant to clear the ground for something new. Because sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. And if the Browns have the courage to face it, to finally grow up, own their mistakes, and put faith in something other than desperation, then Mike Tomlin's warning won't just be a takedown. It'll be the moment that saved a franchise from itself. So now it's simple. Either the Browns change or they stay the joke. Either they draft Shedeur Sanders and build a future, or they waste another one. Either they prove Mike Tomlin wrong or prove him right forever. The ball's in Cleveland's court, and for once, the whole world's watching.